So you're organizing a fight night combat tournament and you need to select 8 players to fill the knockout bracket. Who gets to take part? Well, if you have the time and space, the default should be round robin qualifications, where everyone plays everyone else to 3 points in one-on-one matches. However, there are some situations where that's not possible or it isn't the best approach. One such example is if the tournament is at a live event, like a street show festival, and the only venue for both the knockout and qualifications is in front of a live audience. Or maybe you only have about 45 minutes to run the whole thing, qualifications and knockout included, and you aren't able to organize the paperwork for all the one-on-one matches. In these cases, you can use the melee combat qualification method. Broadly speaking, you play rounds of open melee combat, where it's every player entering every round until you have 8 winners. If a player wins, they qualify for the knockout, and don't take part in the following rounds of melee combat. This will take, at minimum, 8 rounds of melee combat. It might take more if the final jugglers both drop and a round has to be replayed from the start to determine a single winner. As long as there are only about 15 jugglers in total, there will be enough room to do the melee combat rounds in the same space needed for the one-on-one knockout matches. With more than 15 jugglers, it'll probably be too crowded and the melee rounds might start taking too long. But for a small group with limited time and space, and especially in front of a live audience, this melee combat is a good way to pick 8 jugglers for the knockout. However, before I share the method of assigning the seedings to the players in the knockout bracket, I'll explain why this isn't the default method for Fight Night combat qualifications. First up, the skill being tested in qualifications is different to those being tested in the knockout matches. For example, avoiding being attacked from behind is different in melee combat than one-on-one combat. Round-robin qualifications is selecting the best one-on-one player for a one-on-one tournament, and is therefore a lot more fair. Next, there is a lot of randomness in melee combat. With the crowding and jostling early on in the rounds, a good player might be knocked out early accidentally. Third, with melee combat, you can be rewarded off the back of the skill of other players. If you're good at running away from the action in melee combat, you can survive until there are just 3 players without having to attack anyone. Then, due to the other 2 players taking each other out, you can qualify by default. Next, the allocation of ranking points is uneven. In normal round-robin qualifications, especially at big events, it's possible to earn Fight Night rankings points by doing well, but not quite making the cut for the knockout. With melee combat, you either win a match or you don't, and if you don't win a match, you get a maximum of a single ranking point. This means 8 players get quarterfinal points, and everyone else is left with next to nothing. It's also harder to keep track of the names of everyone taking part. In round-robin qualification, everyone writes down their names on a sheet of paper so nobody slips through the cracks. With melee combat, it's up to the organizer to make sure everyone is recorded as taking part, and due to the compressed format, or if it's a large group, that might not be possible. Finally, one of the main benefits of round-robin qualifications is that it's the only chance for any juggler of any skill level to test themselves against the best combat players. For many people, the qualifications is the main or only event, and their best way to improve as a player. Just 8 rounds of melee combat denies them this opportunity. For all these reasons, tournaments with melee combat are penalized when it comes to deciding their points level. A 16-player tournament with round-robin qualifications would be at the standard 250 level no problem, but with melee qualifications, a 16-player tournament would be merely a minor 125 or 175 tournament. So to be fair to the players taking part, both in terms of determining the knockout participation seeding and ranking points later on, please default to round-robin qualifications if there is time and space. With all that said, there are some ways to mitigate the randomness of melee qualifications and to reward those who are good at one-on-one combat, and that's down to how you assign the seedings. Seedings are important because it's no fun if the 2 best players face off in the first knockout match and the final match is between a multiple Fight Night champion and a beginner juggler in their first tournament who just happened to luck out during qualifications. So here's how you should do it.
And I'm going to pass you over to the host for today, Charlie Mann!
First, have one person whose only job it is to do the paperwork. Don't try to organize the melee combat rounds, be an announcer, talk to the audience, and also keep track of the players all at once. Second, you should really have downloaded and printed out a Fight Night Combat Tournament guide sheet. It's a PDF with all the info you need for a normal tournament, but it can be used for melee qualifications too. If you don't have that paper, at least look at it on your phone for reference. Third, open the current points and rankings page on the Fight Night Combat website. Once qualifications start, play the first round of open combat, and make sure the announcer tells everyone who has been knocked out to stand at the sides or sit down so as not to obstruct the view from the audience. When you have a winner of the first round, ask them their full name and write it down on the top of the list. Next, look up their name on the current points and rankings page. To make this easier, just tap the player header at the top of the column and it will sort by name, and then you'll be able to find their name more easily no matter where they're ranked. Write down their current rank next to their name. Now repeat this process for each new winner of each new melee combat round. If they aren't currently ranked, just leave that blank. This should leave you with a list of 8 names in the order they won their combat rounds. Some names will have rankings next to them and some not. Now the knockout seeding order is determined first by their place in the current rankings and then by the order that they won a melee combat round. This is the easiest fair way to make sure the top players aren't matched up in the first round. It also rewards those who have participated in more Fight Night Combat tournaments over the past year, and one of the main reasons for the rankings to exist is to encourage participation and to help with tournament seedings just like this. So whoever is top ranked, the one with the ranking closest to 0, not the highest number next to their name, regardless of the order they won their melee combat round, that player is the top seed. Put their name in quarterfinal 2 and tick them off the list. Whoever is the next ranked player is the second seed. They play in quarterfinal 3 and tick their name off the list. Whoever is third ranked highest player is the third seed. They play in quarterfinal 4. The fourth highest ranked player is in quarterfinal 1. Of course, if you run out of ranked players, just take who is ever highest in the list without a ranking who hasn't been ticked off yet. Whoever won their melee combat round earliest. From there, the 5th seed plays the 4th seed in the first quarterfinal. That should be the closest match and the most exciting for the audience. That's why you should play that quarterfinal first. 6th plays 3rd seed. 7 plays 2nd seed. 8th seed plays 1st seed. Make sure this match isn't the first quarterfinal played. It's the most likely to be the most one-sided, though the inherent randomness of melee combat among unranked players might throw up some surprise results, even against the top few seeds. And that's it. You have the tournament bracket all set. You're ready to start the knockout, and from this point on, proceed like a normal Fight Night Combat tournament. For more information about running a normal Fight Night Combat knockout, check out the video on that very topic. But before you forget, try to record the full name and nationality of all the players, even if they didn't make it to the knockout. They'll be recorded as taking part in the tournament, and they'll get a single ranking point. This could be the start of a big combat career, and it would be a shame not to get them into the rankings as early as possible. From there, you need to take 2 photographs. One photo is a group photo of all the participants. Do this either directly after the qualifications or right after the final match. It's a good way to get everyone back in the arena for the audience to show their appreciation. And for a good photo, put the players in front of the audience. Make sure everyone is cheering and take the shot. The second photo is of the form that you've just filled out. With that, I can enter all the names and nationalities and all the match results into the Fight Night Combat database. I can update the rankings and share the results from your tournament with everyone. Now email both of these photos to luke@juggler.net. And I mean it, send them right away. Don't wait or you'll forget or lose track. Send the photos before your next meal. That's a good way to think of it. And that's it for Melee Qualifications. Please remember, this is a special qualification format for special circumstances. Please hold round robin qualifications if at all possible. Thanks to all my Patreons for supporting Fight Night Combat. If you're not a current Patreon supporter, please consider joining up and contributing financially to the running of Fight Night Combat. And you can do that by heading over to patreon.com/Luke Burridge. Thanks for watching.